The Uber Case 7 deals with the principles of decision making. This guidance will focus on the two kinds of decision making, rational and non-rational. Rational decision making, or the classical model, explains how managers should make decisions. This means that there is an optimal decision that will be based on facts and will be in the organization's best interest. Optimal decisions can have a standard policy a company uses that is based on tried and true processes that have been proved over and over. Let's say that a business has found if an employee misses 3 times in a month without an excuse, they will quit within 60 days of the last day missed. Missing days cause a drop in productivity and show a tendency to be disinterested in the work or the company. In order to speed the process of waiting until the employee finally quits and the company decides that it is less expensive and lowers the company's morale if the employee is terminated instead of waiting until they quit. The policy would be an employee missing 3 times in a month without an excuse would be terminated. The business knows that this is the decision. There's 100% cause, 100% response. If A happens, then B will happen. Optimal decisions can also be based on information or data, but there isn't always a 100% outcome. In this case, you would need to analyze the data, determine alternatives, and apply a percent of success. A manager would have to decide which alternatives would most likely occur and select that decision. If alternative 1 has a 70% chance of success, alternative 2 has a 50% chance of success, and alternative 3 has a 30% chance of success, then alternative 1 would be selected. Satisficing solutions or non-rational decisions are used when the problem is unique or there isn't any firm data. Think of this as a crisis situation. The situation hasn't been encountered, there isn't any data to draw, so there is no real way to develop alternatives with any idea of a percent of outcomes. In this case, you only seek alternatives until the first satisfactory one comes up. The 4-step process in the rational decision making, according to our text, is Stage 1, identify the problem or opportunity. Stage 2, think up alternative solutions. Stage 3, evaluate alternatives and select a solution. Stage 4, implement and evaluate the solution chosen. Step 1 is key in the process. If you don't identify the problem or opportunity correctly, then you will be trying to solve a problem by making a decision on the wrong thing. Consider this treating a symptom. If you treat a symptom, that symptom may go away, but others will occur. For instance, high reject rates for a widget may be caused by a machine problem. If the manager believes that the high reject rate is caused by an employee being careless or not following procedures, the manager may institute strict compliance to processes, poor performance reviews, or the employee may be terminated for having too high of a reject rate. In this case, the manager has wasted time and effort, and maybe a good employee has been properly discharged. In this case, the symptom was the high reject rate. The employee is terminated and a new one hired, and the reject rate stays the same. Addressing the machine problem would solve the problem. Stage 2 is thinking up alternative solutions. I always recommend 3 alternatives be stated and discussed because a manager will sometimes use a satisficing solution, the first best alternative, and stay with it even if there are other better alternatives. This forces the manager to at least consider other alternatives and gain input from those familiar or affected by the problem. Stage 3 is evaluating the alternatives and select the solution. Depending on the decision model, which will be discussed later chapters, the decision makers are required to evaluate the alternative and justify the decision instead of simply using the first best idea. May be true if you use the first best idea, but not always. Remember, we're trying to optimize. Stage 4, implement and evaluate solution chosen. This can be tricky. The manager may know what needs to be done or is glad the decision is made and may not properly implement the decision. If it isn't implemented properly, then the decision may not succeed. The devil is in the details. Probably the most neglected part of the rational decision-making process is the evaluation process of the implementation. If implementation and result are successful, the decision may not be evaluated except for saying it worked. Or if it's not successful, it may not be evaluated and simply say it didn't work. Successful evaluation, determining the specific reasons for success or failure, is an important part of the manager's toolkit for making future decisions. A quick review. There are two types of decisions, rational or optimized, and non-rational or satisficing. A rational decision making has four-stage model that relies on identification of the problem, determining alternatives, choosing the alternative, and implementation and evaluation. Non-rational uses the first acceptable alternative that the decision maker comes up with.